Hi, welcome to LW Pharmacy Technician School channel. My name is Lindsay Bradford and I will be your host for today. Shout out to you if you're in my 15-week pharmacy technician class and you're watching this. Shout out to you, you are in the right spot. We drop new content every Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time and 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. If you have not subscribed, do that now and ring the bell for notifications, okay? So you can stay up to date with what we're doing and what we have to offer you. Let me put my phone on silent because they calling me. They are calling me. So today we're going to be talking about federal laws. We're just going to jump right into it, okay? The 1951 law. So let's think about like what laws do, why they're important. And I won't go into the whole pharmacy thing. We're just going to talk about regular rules. And like, it's a rule that you can't run the stop sign if you're in the United States. It's a rule that you can't run the red light, right? Those rules are in place to keep us all where we need to be, and they keep the boundaries where they should be. So just keep in mind that just like we have rules in everyday life, there are rules in pharmacy, okay? Rules that you cannot break. So the 1951 Durham-Humphrey Amendment is the rule that says federal law prohibits dispensing without a prescription. Federal law prohibits dispensing without a prescription. And that's basically going to be for your drugs that require a script, okay? So that's not going to be for your OTCs. That won't be for your behind-the-counter medications, just the scripts. Just the drugs that require a prescription. So that's going to be Xanax, that will be amoxicillin, that's going to be birth control, asthma, inhalers, those sort of things. Certain drugs are requires doctor supervision. And so it needs a prescription because that prescription says, hey, this is the legal document that I'm giving such and such, or Jimmy, John, the permission to take this drug. And while Jimmy John is taking this drug, I'm going to be overseeing his care. And somebody may say, well, Jimmy John is not at the hospital, so how is the doctor overseeing it? Well, if Jimmy John was operating a motor vehicle, or let's say there was something going on and he got pulled over or whatever, he could always say, hey, no, my doctor wrote me this prescription. We can go then down that trail and connect it back to the doctor. Or if he had an allergic reaction or anything happened that hindered his health, we can trail where this prescription started and, you know, what the reasoning for the script was and that sort of thing. So that's something to keep in mind. Durham-Humphrey also made the legal or the initial distinction between legend drugs and OTCs. So legend drugs is drugs that require a prescription. And why do we say legend? Because these drugs are needing a blueprint, if you will, some sort of directions to tell them how to take it, how often to take it, how many days it should last, that sort of thing, okay? Remember that OTC medications do not require a prescription. No prescription required for OTC medications. I did go ahead and put a little script down at the bottom so you can have a frame of reference, okay? But that's something for you to keep in mind. The 1983 Orphan Drug Act. The 1983 Orphan Drug Act is here to ease the restriction of medications that are used for rare diseases. So let's think about this. If a person has a condition that we're not accustomed to, we don't really know what it is, we don't know how to treat it, and we're trying to find out how can we treat you. When we operate underneath the Orphan Drug Act, it says, okay, we realize this is a rare disease. We're going to ease these restrictions that it would take in order to get this drug approved. We're going to ease it so that way we can get this person or this group of people the help that they need. Because, you know, when pharmacy scripts or the pharmacy medications are coming out, new drugs are coming out, there is an approval process that they have to go through. And that process can be very lengthy and very costly. And so with that being said, they're saying, hey, when someone has a rare disease that we don't really know much about and we don't want it to spread, we're going to try to cure this as quickly as possible. And we're going to make it easier for the manufacturer to put this medication out so we can help that person get over this disease that they're dealing with. And so the Orphan Drug Act says not only are we going to ease the restrictions, but we're going to ease the cost for development of the new drug. And that just means that, hey, let's say someone, your neighbor says, you know what, I got a cure for such and such. And you're like, I didn't even know you was that smart. And so then your neighbor is like, yes, I want to know, what do I need to do? How can I develop this? And so the Orphan Drug Act is saying, hey, we're going to come together. We're going to work with you. We want to make sure that this person or this group of people get the help that they need in order to get healed. Okay. A rare disease typically is when it's affecting 1 in 200,000 people. So COVID isn't a rare disease. It may have been when it first came. But now it's not a rare disease. HIV isn't a rare disease, but I think in the very beginning, when HIV first happened and we had the very first case in the United States, it might have been looking like, okay, this is a rare disease. But then as time went on, it's not as rare as it used to be, okay? Make sure you're writing this down because these are your federal drugs that you will be tested over, on the board exam, and this is important for you to know, okay? Y'all, my little charm bracelet just keep popping up against this, my desk, so if y'all hear it, just know that's what it is. The 1990 Obra Omnibus Budget Reconciliation Act, Obra 90, as you also know it as. This act right here, this law requires the pharmacist to counsel patients who receive new scripts. Let's talk about that. So if we have a patient who is receiving a new script, they need to be counseled. Now, let me tell you, I've gone to Walgreens a few times, and I'm sorry, Walgreens. I'm not trying to throw y'all under the bus, but I just got to share my experience. I've gone to a few pharmacies, not just Walgreens, some other ones that they are not asking me if I want counsel on my new prescription. If I'm in the car with somebody else who's getting a new script, I need to hear that pharmacist come to that window and say, hey, would you like counseling? Because it's a new prescription. Now, it's up to the patient to accept it or not. But the pharmacists have to offer counseling to patients when they get a new script, okay? Now, when pharmacists are counseling the patient, they've already done their research on their side with their computer, meaning that they've done an evaluation of the drug therapy, they've reviewed the drug therapy process, they've also done the drug utilization evaluation. And a lot of those things go hand in hand. So that means that they're looking at the patient's profile. They want to make sure that the drug that they're being prescribed today doesn't affect a drug that they're already taking. They're looking at other drugs in the past to see, hey, are you still taking the birth control? Because your doctor just prescribed amoxicillin, and antibiotics will decrease the effects of your birth control. So if you are still taking this birth control, you want to use a secondary precaution to ensure that you prevent pregnancy while you're on this antibiotic. If you did not know that, write that down. Antibiotics do decrease the effectiveness of birth control. So that means that if a patient or a customer is taking birth control, they need to be very careful when taking antibiotics, use another form of protection because it will decrease the effectiveness, okay? So another thing I wanted to mention is, as pharmacy techs, we do not give counsel. We do not give counsel. We are not licensed to give counsel. So that means that if you have a patient who asks you a question about their prescription, if they call in and say, I'm having these side effects, what do I do? You need to put the pharmacist on the phone, or you need to say, please hold for a second. Let me grab my pharmacist very quickly. I'll be right back with you. And that's what's going to be, what's going to be needed for that particular situation because we can't give any counsel as technicians, okay? So just remember that. Don't get caught in giving counsel. But when you think about DUR, DUE, all of these is what the pharmacist does before the prescription goes out to the patient. What we do, and I'll tell you the process. As techs, we grab the prescription off of the fax or wherever the script is coming in. It may be an e-script. It may have come through the computer. We go and we get the medication off the shelf. We come back to the counting center. We count the medication by fives, and then we put a label on it, put the medication in the vial, put a label on it, and then we send it down to the pharmacist. When it gets to the pharmacist, that's when they're doing this DUE, DUR. They're reviewing the medication to make sure it won't interfere with anything that the patient has already taken. And they're also making sure that the patient is aware of any side effects and if there are any food or drinks they need to stay away from while throughout this duration of therapy. That's something too that they are sharing with that customer. So that's what's happening during that time, okay? If you have not subscribed to the channel, please go ahead and do so now. Ring that bell for notification. We do drop new content every Sunday, 6 p.m. Eastern Time. 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. So please forgive me. I'm trying to get used to these time zones, okay? Make sure you're writing this down because this is definitely something you're going to be tested over. Registration requirement for maintaining narcotics. So narcotics is another word for what? Controlled substances. You guessed it. Okay. Narcotics. The DEA has 4 forms that are used for registration. Okay. The first form is 224. 224. 224 is used for the pharmacy dispensing of controlled substance. So in order for the pharmacy to dispense controlled substances, they have to have Form 224 complete, and it has to be registered with the DEA in order for them to dispense this medication to the community. It needs to be renewed every 3 years. Every 3 years it is renewed, okay? Form 225. Form 225. This is the form that is for manufacturers or distributions of controlled substance, right? So that means these are for the people who are creating the controlled substance. If you are manufacturing controlled substance, you're distributing control, this is what they have to register. They need to register this form with the DEA. Why? So they can actually manufacture the medication. And then Form 363, this is to run a narcotic treatment program or compound narcotics. Narcotic treatment program. So this is where people may be coming in because they may be addicted to controlled substances. You just never know what someone's going through and, just what type of help they need. And then also for compounding narcotics. And then the last one is to return to reverse distributor. So basically that means that I have a bottle of Ozarka water, and let's say this Ozarka water, let's say this wasn't water, this was a controlled liquid medication. And let's say it was Tylenol 3. And I needed to send this back, or it expired, and I need to get rid of it. Then I would need to return this back to the distributor in order to get credit and, in order to make sure that it's being handled appropriately. Because we in pharmacy, we don't have anywhere to pour this down the drain. You should never pour medication down the drain, by the way. You should never pour medication down the toilet because all of that is going back into our sewer. And remember, all of the water that we use is recycled. I know that sounds bad, but the same water that you're showering with is the same water that's in your toilet, which is the same water you're brushing your teeth with. So please don't put anything down the drain that is harmful to the environment because we're recycling the water, unless you have a filtration system in your house. Now, if you got a filtration system in your house, go ahead, okay? Invite me over so I can get the filter water. But just remember, all medications need to go back to their manufacturer. If they are expired, we need to send them back, okay? So that reverse distributor is basically where you're just sending that medication back. There is something called a take back program, and that is in chapter 2 of your book. If you are in my 15-week class, that is in chapter 2 of your book. If you're in my 4-week class, that is in chapter 2 of your book as well, where it talks about the take back program, and you can read more about that and how that works, okay? Let's go to the next one. Ratings of controlled substances. There are 5 levels. 5 levels, okay? The first level is C1. That means if a drug is C1, it has the strongest potential for abuse, okay? The strongest potential for abuse, there is no medicinal use for it. That's going to be LSD, that's going to be heroin, that's crack cocaine, that could also be meth. That's going to be those drugs where they're straight recreational and there's nothing medicinal about them. Now, if you look at my picture, you do see marijuana there. In some states, marijuana is not legal yet, as far as not legal in regards to using it for medicinal purposes. Okay, so that means that if a person gets pulled over, they have marijuana, you know, it can be a problem. So you're going to see that. You're not going to really see that on your board exam. I have not seen that at all. But I did just kind of want to put it there just because I know that there's controversy behind it, and that's always a good question. I will tell you that cocaine is a Schedule 2. Cocaine is a Schedule 2, and I actually learned that through my YouTube channel because on a few videos back in like 2018, maybe before the pandemic, maybe 2019, I think it was 2019, I actually put cocaine in Schedule 1, and someone came on and said it's Schedule 2. I looked it up, they were right. I said, oh my God. So thank you so much for the feedback. I enjoy feedback. Please give it back to me because I do not claim to be the end all be all, and neither do I claim to know it all, okay? So if you know something, please share your knowledge, your wisdom, and your understanding with me because I'm always looking to learn more and to be better so I can continue to help others grow. So please continue to share that information. Drugs C2 through C5 are all medicinal drugs, meaning that they have a medical use, okay? Meaning that there is something about them that will help someone be healed from something, okay? C2s need to be kept in a locked cabinet. Percocets, Adderall, Ritalin, Oxycontin, right? Those drugs need to be kept in a locked cabinet. Morphine, all of those drugs, because those drugs have a high potential for abuse, and we do not want anyone getting to the drugs, not even the technicians, because the person who has the key for that locked cabinet is the pharmacist, and they are checking the drugs that are locked over to make sure that that inventory is staying up to date and that the inventory is matching what is being dispensed and being put out into the community or being put out into that environment of pharmacy, okay? So if they're in the hospital, they're checking that locked cabinet to make sure, okay, if we've given medications for floors 2 through 10, then our inventory should reflect what we've done. It shouldn't reflect that we've given medications to floors 2 through 15. That means something is wrong, okay? That means there's somebody in there or some kind of way this medication is getting away from the pharmacy. Please don't get caught up in that. Real quick, when I worked at a certain pharmacy, it was a grocery store pharmacy, I had someone approach me and ask me to take prescriptions, blank prescriptions out of the pharmacy and give it to them. At that time, I might have been 22. Baby, look, I said, no, ma'am, press him. No, ma'am, press him. No, ma'am, no, ma'am. But look, one thing you ain't got to worry about me doing is stealing, especially from no pharmacy. Child, I like eyelashes. I like my nails done. I like my eyebrows threaded. I like real cute hairstyles. Baby, they ain't got none of that in the penitentiary. I ain't with it. Look, I don't have time to be dyeing my hair with Kool-Aid, okay? And that's how you need to think, friend. Somebody come to you with that. Look, no, not over here. Try it with somebody else. And look, and for my guy friends, don't let the pretty lashes and the pretty eyes and the nice little figures get you caught up in something that you shouldn't be in. When you are in pharmacy, you represent a prestigious industry, a prestigious career. Please know that pharmacy is huge on integrity, okay? That's what keeps us going. It's one of the things that keeps us going. We want to make sure we're helping people and taking care of people, not stealing and giving it to the streets. Don't do that. The last thing I want you to remember about this particular slide is the U.S. Attorney General assigns the schedule for the drugs. The DEA don't do it and the FDA don't do it. It's the U.S. Attorney General who assigns the schedule for the drugs. So schedules 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 were assigned by the U.S. Attorney General. When I first started in pharmacy, tramadol was not a scheduled drug. But throughout the years, tramadol has become a drug that is being abused. And because it's being abused, it's now a scheduled drug, okay? So keep in mind that the Attorney General is looking and evaluating. They're looking at the data. They're watching the streets. They're seeing what's happening. What are the new trends? And with that new information, they're updating the schedules and making sure that they're keeping us safe, okay? Look, pay attention. Make sure you are writing this down because I'm telling you, I'm dropping gems and I'm giving you information that you probably wouldn't have known to write down. You know you need to be writing this down. Prescription regulations. Who can prescribe prescriptions? Who can prescribe prescriptions? And throughout the country, physicians, surgeons, doctors, dentists, podiatrists, veterinarians, veterinarians. This is a list of all the doctors who can prescribe medication in the States. Now, when I went to Mexico, I went to Tulum, Mexico in April. And I walked into a pharmacy and they had Adderall. I want to say they had Adderall. Look, I really didn't do inventory, but they had Adderall, they had antibiotics, they had some other medications. I did not do inventory, but some of the people I was with went and got some things from the pharmacy. Like they have chips and sodas and stuff like that. So, and it was close to where we were staying, so we went in. And it was so amazing how when we went in, and maybe on my next YouTube, on my next video, I may try to put a picture of it in here. But it was just so interesting how you could really just purchase whatever you wanted and you didn't need a prescription. That was in Mexico. It's called the Farmacia. I hope I said the right Farmacia. If I didn't, all my Latino friends, please let me know how to say this because y'all know your girl is working on her Spanish. So if you speak Spanish, please drop it in the comments and let me know how to say pharmacy. I think it's Farmacia. But anywho, in the States, you need a script. And you can only get a script by the people listed here. So chiropractors can give the scripts. Holistic doctors cannot give scripts, not for the pharmacy, okay? So please remember that. There is a regulation there. OSHA. These are the people who are looking at the workplace environment and they're saying, hey, we got to keep you safe. OSHA Safety and Health Administration, or not OSHA, Occupational Safety and Health Administration, which stands for OSHA, have something called the safety data sheets. Okay. And safety data sheets is for chemicals, right? When we're dealing with chemicals, spills of chemicals, when you're compounding and you're in that type of pharmacy, all of that information is going to be listed in that safety data sheet because we're going to want to know if there is a spill. First, this sheet is going to tell you what to do in case of a spill. If it makes eye contact or contact with your eyes, this is how you should handle that. Storage requirements. Should this medication be kept in the refrigerator? Is it okay to be kept outside? Room temperature. That's the information you're going to get. And then how do you handle it? Can I touch it with my bare hands? Do I need a glove? That's the type of information that you're going to learn from the safety data sheet. Data means information. Safety, I'm trying to keep you safe, for lack of better words. The root word of safety is safe, okay? So we want to keep you safe. We want to keep you in the pharmacy. We want to make sure that things are safe and that patients, now let me think about this. When I worked in retail, I don't remember seeing the safety data sheet. I'm sure they probably had one. But when I think about safety data sheets, I really think about them in a compounding institutional pharmacy. Compounding, where you're mixing medications like sterile, medications, chemical medications, chemotherapy. And then institutional can be your hospitals, your home health, your nursing homes, that type of facility. I don't remember seeing this in retail. It probably was there, but I don't remember seeing it. Just remember that the test you're taking is geared towards retail. So I like to tell my friends up front, don't do a lot of studying that's going to help with the hospital. You want to focus on retail and community pharmacy because that's the test that you're taking. Now, if you want to go into the hospital or institutional, that's fine. You can do that. But when we're studying and we're being intentional about our study time, we want to study things that we're going to be tested over, okay? So that's why you're here with me, because I know what you're going to see and how you're going to see it, okay? Remember, new content every Sunday, 6 p.m. Eastern Time. 7 p.m. Eastern Time, 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. I'm going to get there right. The recall drugs. So there are 3 classifications for recall drugs. 3 classifications. The first class is serious harm or to prove fatal. So if something's fatal, there's a fatality, we know that it didn't end well and that person died. That can happen when a drug is recalled. The patient took it. We couldn't get to them fast enough. They took the medication and it just went south. That can be very sad. That can be, very sad, very heartbreaking, obviously, for the family that's involved. Serious harm could be where that patient may not ever be able to walk again. Their nervous system may be damaged. They could be brain dead. They could be blind. I mean, these are just the worst case scenario. And just remember that the worst case scenario is going to be class 1. Because when you think about recall drugs, just like when you think about your controlled substance, they start at the highest and then they work them way down to the lowest. That is just always so touchy for me, y'all, because medication is here to help people, it's here to cure, it's here to push people along. And so when we have incidents like this happen, which is, it's not something that we can prevent because we're all human and things are going to happen. However, it doesn't diminish or decrease the sadness that comes along with that. That's one thing that you have to have when you're in pharmacy. You want to have that empathy, where you, in that sympathy, where you can relate whether it's happened to you or if it's something that you can just put yourself in someone else's shoes and say, you know what, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry that happened to you. I'm so sorry you're going through this. Because remember, when people come to the pharmacy, they're sick. A lot of times they're sick. They go to the doctor sick, but it's not until they leave the pharmacy with the medication that the doctor prescribed that they then have a plan on how to get well. So remember, when you're in the pharmacy, you want to be compassionate, you know, you want to be kind, pleasant. You want people to have a good experience, even if though they may be rude and ugly to you. And just think, you know, this person could have just been diagnosed with leukemia. They could have been just diagnosed with HIV. They could have been married to their partner for years and just found out that they have chlamydia. And they're like, how in the heck did I get chlamydia? Which means now we're going to have more questions and more problems when I get home to my partner. These are things that real life, you know, this is real life. And these are things that real people are experiencing. So when we're in the pharmacy, the best thing we can do is be a pleasant face and try to be as understanding as we possibly can, because you may be the only smile that that person sees that day. You may be the only person that's positive, you know. And remember, yes, I'm teaching you to pass the board exam, but I'm also teaching you entry-level soft skills that your employers are looking for in order to hire and retain you in that pharmacy, right? So make sure you are staying focused and that you are taking some notes, because the information I'm giving you, I've talked to the employers, I've talked to the people in the pharmacies and what they're looking for in candidates, okay? Class 2, temporary health problems. Someone takes a drug, there's a temporary health problem, slight threat of serious harm, but not anything we can't reverse. This is reversible. So let's put them in this, you know, situation where they can be healed. They're, you know, maybe getting some rehab, maybe, and rehabilitation could be where they're going and learning how to walk again. They're going, and it doesn't have to be anything that drastic, but I'm just using that just so you can understand. They're getting their bodies back to where it needs to be. Okay. So that's going to be class 2. So not as bad as class 1, obviously. And then class 2 is in that mid-range. Now, class 3 is a minor defect that would not harm the patient. It's a minor defect or would not harm the patient. So I always use this analogy or this example where a person eats bread, and you can see on the bread it says that it expired May 22nd. No, let's say May 15th. And today I think it's the 22nd. So May 15th, and it expires on the 22nd. They eat the bread anyway because they don't see any moldy spots, and there's nothing wrong. It didn't harm them. They're fine. Okay. Same thing here. Recalled drug. They recalled it. We didn't know what was going on, but it didn't harm anybody. Whew, we got away that day. Whew, we saved another life, or we didn't take a life. Okay. The FDA is the organization that handles drug recalls. So drug recalls are issued by the FDA, not the DEA, not the ISMP, not any of those other acronyms. It is the FDA. Some of y'all are getting tricked up on that. 2005 Combat Methamphetamine Epidemic Act. Okay, put your combat boots on for this one, baby, because we walking here. Pseudoephedrine is used to make methamphetamine, crystal meth to be exact. It is kept behind the counter, child, because we don't want any more crystal meth labs. When I lived, maybe about 10 years ago, I lived in an area that wasn't a bad area, but anywho, there was a meth lab, and the lab exploded, and it was somebody's house. It was like a 2-story home, 5-bedroom house. And we had no idea. It wasn't very close to me, but it was like maybe 10 minutes away from where I live. And we had no idea that it was a meth lab. But anywho, child, they went to jail. That was about 10 years ago. You know what? That wasn't 10 years ago. That had to be about 15 years ago, honestly. So pseudoephedrine, Sudafed, as you know it, but the ingredients is pseudoephedrine. It is kept behind the counter. And students, please write this down if you are studying for your board exam. 3.6 grams can be dispensed in one day. 9 grams can be dispensed in 30 days. Okay. When they come to the pharmacy, they need to show their driver's license. When they show us their driver's license, we're going to scan it in the system. The system is going to then do a scan with that driver's license to see if they've bought this product from any other pharmacy. And if it has, and it's been less than the 30 days, and they've already reached the 9-gram mark, we cannot sell it to them. It's not even anything we have control over. The system has been programmed and designed to block that. Look, I'm just the messenger, so don't shoot me. I just enforce the rules. I don't make them. 3.6 grams a day, 9 grams per 30 days, okay? Write this down. I cannot say it enough. We've made it to the end, and this one talks about group tutorials. Now, my group tutorials are lit, okay? We having a good time. We're using everyday life to help us retain this pharmacy information. That's why my friends keep passing, because baby, we're not just using these books and trying to remember these books. No, we're using everyday life because we're human and we're living life to retain this information, okay? I have 2 time slots available, 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. Central Standard Time and 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. You will be in there with other friends like yourself who are trying to pass the board exam. This is also a great way to network. This is a great way to start learning people in the pharmacy, because we know that it's not always what you know, but sometimes it's who you know. You never know who you're rubbing necks with. You never know who you're rubbing shoulders with and who you're sitting on the side of. So this is a great way to get your foot in the door. And this is also a great way to retain information, make new friends who align with your future so you can continue to be the best that you need to be. This group tutorials is $30 per hour. And obviously you can do 2 hours. I've had some students do 2 hours if that's what you want to do, or you can do 1 hour. It's totally up to you. We do offer them every Thursday. And I am dropping the link in the chat, in the description of this video for group tutorials so you can sign up and move forward with that, okay? I hope that you have had a wonderful time with me, because I've had a wonderful time with you. Also, if you are in my 4-week or 15-week class, you do not have to worry about the group tutorials because you're already getting an opportunity to work with me weekly. So don't worry about any of that. But if you are not in my classes and you want to study with me on the side, please make sure that you do click the link in the video description and we can talk more, okay? Have a good day, okay? Go out there and do your thing and then come back and study a little bit, okay? But if you're listening to me while you're driving, pay attention to the road. And obviously you can't take notes, but you'll be surprised how much your unconscious can retain this information. I'm proud of you. Continue to do your very best, and I will see you next week. Next Sunday, we are dropping new content. See you then, friend. Bye.